Yeah, what's up, everybody? It's Ringside Report. I am Dave Simon, and AJ DeLessio is here. There he is. Look at him. Look at him over there.
Hey, what's up, bud?
Hey, AJ.
John, damn it.
What are you doing, reading?
I didn't know. Yes, sir. Reading is very good for you. You know this one.
Yeah, sure.
One of the best mags out there.
We got some MMA to talk about here tonight.
What?
Shut up, AJ.
The best mags out there. Come on, Dave. You know which mag that is. You're a subscriber.
I'm not. I'm not at all. I never have been. We are going to talk about some MMA here tonight. AJ DeLessio. Look at your name there. You see your name? AJ was complaining to me. He was like, oh, it always says Anthony DeLessio, Anthony Jr. I wanted to say AJ. He's very particular about his name. You see your name there, AJ? You see that underneath your face? AJ DeLessio right there. Yeah, that's what you wanted, right?
But it looks like the J is spaced like a little bit too far away from the A. Now it looks like A, J.
You want the A and the J together, no space. We'll get that fixed for you, AJ.
Who
okay,
puts
no
space in there, man.
No space. It's getting
like
fixed.
Madonna's tooth.
I see it getting fixed as we speak, so we can talk about other things, AJ. Like what's next for the UFC 251 winners and the losers, like Jorge Masvidal. What's next for Kamaru Usman? What's next for Gilbert Burns? And the news coming out this week, how well that pay-per-view did. 1.3 million buys for that pay-per-view. Not seeing buys like this since the Conor Khabib fight. So this was a big money fight for the UFC, and I think most people would come to the conclusion that Jorge Masvidal is a major reason why that is. He is a big star. He had that big fight with Nate Diaz. He had a huge 2019. This was his first fight in 2020. He fights Kamaru Usman, and the pay-per-view sells 1.3 million. We were talking about it, AJ, on our group chat with Freddie, right? Freddie's not with us. He's still on baby duty. Baby Alfred Garcia was born last week, so Fred's got a new baby to deal with. He'll be back with us in a week or 2 or 3. We'll give Fred some time. We'll see when Fred comes back, but he'll be back. He'll be back.
I'm disappointed.
Oh, A no space J. Look at your name now, AJ. A no space J.
I like that.
Oh,
I like that.
The production team is messing with AJ, and I love it. I love it.
They're the best, man. I really like that. A space J, like Space Jam, man.
Yeah, Space J.
Listen. This show is a bit spacey at times, man. Let me tell you, especially when there's some of that like Jamaican bats flying around. But hey,
no, AJ, you say that, but it's mostly your fault. You're talking about weed. You're saying, oh, there was the spacey, but Fred and I are the weed smokers on the show. But Fred and I kind of keep the show on the rails and keep it MMA. You're the one who makes the show all spacey, and you blame it on us, but it's really you, AJ. I noticed that when your iPad froze out on the watch along, it stopped being about all sorts of AJ nonsense, and the watch along turned into me actually analyzing the fights and the MMA that I was watching. So I think you're a little too spacey, AJ. I'm trying to talk about what we're going to talk about here on the show.
That was stressful, man.
The UFC,
that was stressful, by the way.
Yeah. The UFC 251 pay-per-view selling 1.3 million. I want to know what you want to see next for Kamaru Usman. It looks to be Gilbert Burns. What's next for Jorge Masvidal? What's next for Peter Yan? Dana White didn't seem so sure. He seemed to be talking about Marlon Moraes a lot more than Aljamain Sterling. We'll talk about that. I think it's down to those two for the Bantamweight Championship now. Where does Jose Aldo go from here now? 0-2 at 135 pounds. Does he move back up to 145? He's kind of done it all there. I don't know what Aldo does next. And then what do you do with Alex Volkanovsky and Max Holloway? They fought again. It was a decision. It was close. Volkanovski came out on the winning end. You're going to say that it was a blowout for Holloway? That's what you're going to try and tell me here? Hang on, AJ, before you spew your nonsense. The fight was close. The judges gave it to Volkanovski, but most people feel like Holloway probably won. So the question is, now, 2 fights in a row now where Holloway loses by decision, but this last one, it's like, oh, I don't know, maybe the judges got it wrong. Do you do a third fight right away, even though Holloway has lost 2 in a row. It's kind of hard to sell a trilogy fight where, it's 2-0 in favor of Volkanovski. It's hard to do. I'm not saying it's the wrong move, but we can talk about it here on the show. I want to talk about the Dan Ige versus Calvin Keator results. I was calling him Ige, but on the it's IGE, the guy who main evented the UFC card last night.
I thought it was EG.
EG, yeah. No one knew how to pronounce this guy's name, but they were saying Ige. I don't know how you get Ige from IGE, but hey, whatever. It's the guy's name. So Dan Ige and Calvin Keator had a hell of a fight last night, as did Ryan Benoit and Tim Elliott. We'll get to those, and we'll preview the UFC Flyweight Championship fight coming up on Saturday night. Hopefully it's for the title this time, because Figueiredo and Benavidez are main eventing. They fought not long ago. Figueiredo won. It was supposed to be for the vacant flyweight title, but Figueiredo was overweight, so they had the fight anyways, but only Benavidez had a championship on the line, but Figueiredo won. So now they're just doing it again, and they're hoping that Figueiredo makes weight, right? Hoping tomorrow morning that Figueiredo does make weight. And if he doesn't, I think they have somebody there to step in instead as a backup for either Figueiredo or, I guess, Benavidez. So, AJ, let's start with the UFC 251. You had a lot of things that you were saying, a lot of wild things. You were saying things in the group chat with Fred and I that were a little bit, a little crazy, I think. Now, Kamaru Usman fights Jorge Masvidal last Saturday night. It was not supposed to be the fight. It was supposed to be Gilbert Burns in that spot. Gilbert Burns gets COVID-19 a week out from the fight. He tests positive. Masvidal steps in on a week's notice, has that fight, whatever it was, with Kamaru Usman, and they sell 1.3 million pay-per-views. It is my conclusion that they don't sell 1.3 million pay-per-views when Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman fight. And you were saying that they would, which, I don't really understand. And the beautiful part about this, AJ, is that we're going to find out, because they're going to fight. The next fight for Kamaru Usman defending that UFC welterweight title is Gilbert Burns. That's what Dana White said. He was a number 1 contender before this fight. He had coronavirus. He's going to get the next fight here against Kamaru Usman when he is healthy and when Usman gets some time to recover there from his fight, although he didn't seem to take much damage.
Look, he still has it.
So you think that this fight still sells 1.3 million pay-per-views?
Whoa.
UFC 251, you're telling me it still sells 1.3 million if Gilbert Burns is there instead of Masvidal? Tell me why.
Wait. Hold those horses, Dave. Don't put words in my mouth yet. I'm saying this.
You said that on the chat, though. You said that to me.
I did. Of course I said that.
I'm exposing you.
That's all right. I've been exposed before. TMZ's been there. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I've been caught with my pants down many times, but don't worry, Dave. What it comes down to is this. It depends on what the card is, because Usman Masvidal, huge name with Masvidal, but let's not forget the undercard. All the fighters below that card made that pay-per-view 1.3 million as well. And I'm telling you this, if Burns was fighting on that card, okay, I still think it would have made over $1 million. And what would have been a lot more interesting is that we would have seen Gilbert Burns being the champion. Gilbert Burns would have been able to beat Usman, and it would have been an exciting main card fight where it was definitely not exciting. It was exactly what I said 2 weeks ago.
That's besides the point, though. Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is not the star that Masvidal is, man. Come on, man.
Man, it's the undercard that's the one that made that fight too, man. Holloway, Rose.
I want to know what the chat thinks. I'm seeing people in the chat. Let's take a little quick poll here. If you're watching live and you're on the YouTube chat or the Facebook chat, we're on Facebook Live. Don't forget to like our page on Facebook, subscribe to our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel here, like this video, and leave a comment and all that good stuff. I'm going to check out the chat. Lauren Cronish is there. I got Woods MMA UK. I got TK. I got some people here watching. What do you guys think? Does this pay-per-view, yes or no, very simple, does this pay-per-view sell 1.3 million with Gilbert Burns in the main event
Dave,
against Kamaru Usman?
That's a bad question. That's a really bad. That's a really bad question. You know why?
Why?
Because if Gilbert Burns fights Usman, which is going to happen, depending on who's underneath that card.
I'm saying UFC 251. I'm saying if Gilbert Burns didn't get coronavirus and Gilbert Burns stepped in against Usman instead, he had the fight against Usman and Masvidal was never in the picture, does this thing still sell 1.3 million? I say, hell no. Hell no.
I disagree, Dave.
DK,
and we're going to prove it on the next
agrees. Fight. DK agrees with me. He says, nope. No, it does not. Thank you, TK. Look. Come on, AJ.
You think in 6 days it got over 1.3 million? I'm going to tell you something.
Yes. Masvidal, man, he's a star. Look, are you serious?
He's a star, but he's not that big of a star anymore after that fight. He lost a lot of fans, let's be honest. And to be honest, let's not forget who was on that card. You had Holloway, man. You had Rose. You had Andrade. You had Peter Yan. Like, for most MMA fans, they'll know who Peter Yan is. For the casual fan, maybe not. But after that fight, they'll know who Peter Yan is. Let's be honest, Dave.
Don't take it away from Gilbert Burns. Lauren Cronish on the chat
from Brazil
agrees with me as well, AJ. You're outnumbered. Fred agreed with me, too, on the chat. We were all like, what are you saying, AJ? When you made that argument, I was like, we have to talk about this on the show. Because this is just classic AJ delusion. I don't even understand where you're coming from here. You think that Masvidal meant nothing to increasing the buy rate of this pay-per-view.
No. I said that it did help, but not to the point where it was the major factor. Let's not forget, again, who was on that card, man. And I'm going to tell you something.
Come on, dude.
First of all, the watch-along was very stressful because I had, technical issues, and a lot of shit was going down. But I'm going to tell you this. If Gilbert Burns fights Usman, if that happens, depending who's on that card, if we have somebody like, I don't know, let's say we have Johnny Walker, or we have some other championship fight, it's going to hit over 1 million and more. Because Gilbert Burns is going to beat Usman. I'm telling you, everybody wants to see Usman lose.
No matter what.
Lose. Did I say lose? Lose.
When Gilbert Burns fights Usman, no matter what, you could have Brock Lesnar and GSP and Conor McGregor all on that card. But if it doesn't sell over 1.3 million, which, it obviously would, but if by some strange coincidence or some strange happening, it didn't sell 1.3 million, you would still find excuses, AJ. You'd still be like, oh, they're not big stars, and oh, it's different time, and you would always make an excuse because your logic is flawed and it doesn't make sense, and you can't really quantify how big a star is in the UFC.
What? Listen, don't be mad. I know why you're mad. I know why you're mad, but that's okay.
I'm not mad.
You're mad because I got most of the picks right. That's okay, Dave. I can live with that. Well, I understand that you're upset with my picks and, my calls. But the bottom line is this, is that it would have been a much more exciting fight, okay, if Masvidal didn't fight on that mid card.
You keep talking about how you make correct picks once in a while, and I'll keep talking about how many fights you picked against John Jones. How many fights did you pick against John Jones? Most of them. Most of them.
Listen,
you silly man.
And too bad
what are you saying?
Too bad Fred is not here. You know, and I know that Dominic Reyes won that fight. And the thing is that most of the world did too. So, and you know what? It goes all the way down to a Holloway fight, and I hope we get there because you know what I'm gonna say.
I'd like to get there. I'd like to get there, but you won't let me. Because you're like, first of all, let me say this. And then, first of all, let me say this. Let me say this. There's a lot of let me say this, AJ. But then there's not a lot of let Dave say anything. So we got to get there,
boss,
AJ.
Man. You can cut me off anytime you want.
I'm trying to cut you off, but, okay, so I don't think any chance in hell Gilbert Burns fighting in this fight sells the same as the Masvidal thing. If I were Kamaru Usman, I would send a nice gift to Jorge Masvidal, thanking him for A, stepping in on short notice and allowing him to fight on this card, and B, being a big star and driving up the buy rate, because as the champion, Masvidal gets a piece Volkanovsky walked in as champion, walked out as champion. It's my recollection that UFC champions, I don't know if you have to be in the main event, but I thought they got pay-per-view points if you're a champion. So Volkanovski, like, ask Alex Volkanovski, if he does get pay-per-view points. Or Max Holloway, maybe he's got pay-per-view points in his contract. Like, ask those guys if they're happy that it was Jorge Masvidal instead of Gilbert Burns. They'll tell you, man. Anybody that's getting a cut of that pay-per-view is like, oh, Masvidal made us some money. Come on, man. Let's be real.
Well, that's why. Listen, let's be real. If it was Conor, everybody would want to be on that card. That's where the money is made. Conor. But look at Masvidal right now. Like, honestly speaking, it wasn't a great fight. Usman did exactly what he had to do. Just keep to the wrestling game. Stick to the game plan, which he did. It was not exciting, but to wrestling fans, it was awesome. And the bottom line is you got Masvidal who lost. And he lost.
Awesome?
I think he won one round.
I like
it was
wrestling.
Awesome.
Come on, man.
Wrestling,
it wasn't
but it wasn't
awesome.
An exciting fight.
No, it wasn't awesome. And it wasn't even great wrestling. He didn't do much. He took Masvidal down. He picked him up he pushed him up against the fence. He took him down. When he got him down, he didn't do much. He couldn't really pass. He didn't attempt any submissions. I don't think there was a single submission attempt in that 25-minute fight that was mostly grappling. Come on, man. And look at their faces at the end of it. Nothing really happened in that fight. Not much happened. Usman did what he needed to do to win. And I understand there's a lot on the line. You're trying to win a fight. But that's not a very exciting thing to watch. That's not what I want to watch when I watch professional fighting. I'd like to see a little bit more action. There was very little action there. I understood why Masvidal couldn't get up under Usman, and I understood why Usman was doing what he was doing, but it's just the way the sport is. I don't think that we should have 5 25-minute rounds where it's a 10-point must system. I think that you should have maybe 2 10-minute rounds, or in a championship fight, maybe you have a 15-minute round, and then if it's not settled after 15 straight minutes of fighting, then you have another 10-minute round, and then if it's not settled after that, well, then the judges score it based on a whole fight. You base it not on, rounds. You just base it on who won the fight, who did the most damage. That encourages finishes. That's, Pride style, man, a long round. They did, for their normal fights, the first round was 10 minutes. And then the second round was 5 if you couldn't get it done in the first 10. But you get 10 minutes to work, you're going to make something happen. You're going to have more time. These 5-minute rounds, I don't like. The fact that it's a 10-point must system, I don't really like. MMA isn't boxing, but the rules around it are boxing-like, and that's why the sport is where it is. Is it going to change? I don't think we're anywhere near it changing. What I'm talking about is futuristic MMA talk, okay? What I'm talking about is in 10, 20 years when this sport is so boring because they're at an elite level and you can't really do anything and nobody's been knocked out in 300 UFC cards, then we're going to start to say, okay, maybe we need to start changing the rules of this sport to make it more exciting, because as the rules are, you don't have to beat up a guy, you don't have to finish a guy. All you have to do is just enough so that the judges score it in your favor. If I'm pushing you against the fence and you can't move, and I'm stomping your foot, well, you're not winning the fight because you're pushed up against the fence. What am I really doing? I'm leaning, I'm pushing you into a fence. It's something, it's a skill, but it's not really a fight. It's not really, action, right? And that's not what we want to see. We want to see action. We want to see fighters looking for a finish. You want to see somebody impose their will and know who is the better man. If this was kill or be killed, who would kill and who would be killed? That's what we want to see on a primal level, and that's not what we're getting. I want to know. Look, if I put you in a chokehold and you tap out, you're telling me, okay, I give up, because if you hold on to this, you might kill me, right? Let's not pretend what we're watching here, okay? This is a violent sport, but sometimes, it's a little bit slow and it's a little bit boring. I'm trying to explain to you how we can shake things up. Somebody asked me a question recently about scoring. Okay, I'm sorry, AJ. I'm going on a rant here because I got a lot to say, man.
Go.
But somebody asked me a question about scoring and about how fighters are compensated. Right now, if you fight in MMA, you make, say, $50,000 to show, $50,000 to win. I say make, $80,000 to show and another $40,000, $50,000 to finish. There should be a finish incentive for every fight and for every fighter. Every fight, they should be incentivized to end the fight. Incentivized, it's like, okay, well, I know that if I win here tonight, I'm going to walk away with, $90,000 or whatever. Or say, still do the double in pay. Although I think the double in pay is cruel, man, because sometimes, say you're making $50,000 but $100,000 if you win, and you lose a split decision that you really won, but you still make $50,000. That sucks. That really sucks. So they should get more. They should be getting they should be getting paid more in general, but maybe $50,000 to show up, but or whatever. Say you're making $100,000, you're gonna pay the fighter $100,000. We'll pay him $80,000 and pay him $20,000 to win. But if he wins and finish, pay him an extra $40,000 or $50,000. Right? I think every fighter should have some kind of $10,000, $20,000 bonus to finish that fight. And for bigger fights, the bonuses should go up. It's always a joke to me when fight of the night is between two main event guys that have been around the sport forever that have millions of dollars, and they get $50,000. There's the $50,000 bonus to them is for John Jones, you're giving him $50,000. It's well, he made, $6 million. The $50,000 is kind of nice, but whatever. You give that to somebody else who's making 10 to show and 10 to win, then it's a big deal. Then the bonus is good. But you got to incentivize these people to fight. You got to give these people bigger bonuses if they're making more, if their purse is more, if they're, if John Jones is making, $500,000 to show, well, you should give him an extra $200,000 if he could finish his opponent. And then you can't come at me as a promoter and say, well, this guy didn't finish the fight. And if he doesn't finish the fight, well, he's going to pay for it. He's not going to make as much money as he would. I think you incentivize the finish. I think that's what we need in MMA. I think if Usman was incentivized to finish, he might have fought the style differently. I think if Usman had a first round that was 15 minutes, maybe he could have finished Masvidal within those 15 minutes. Got a takedown, been able to get on top and really work, really have time to slowly crawl his way into a finish. I think if the rules were like I'm talking about, the sport would be a little bit more exciting, because as we progress, as fighters get better, I worry about the sport getting a little bit too boring. You watch amateur wrestling in the Olympics, right? You ever watch high-level Olympic wrestling, AJ? They never pin each other. There's very rarely a pin. And the pin is like a knockout or a submission in an MMA fight. Why is there very rarely a pin? Why do they always win on points? Most professional boxing matches, the high level, you see number 1, number 2 contender, very rarely do those fights end in a knockout. Most of the time it goes to a judge's decision. Why is that? Because when you get elite level combat that's refined over time, eventually it gets to a stalemate point where people are so good and the difference between number 1 and number 2 is so razor thin that they're just kind of waiting for the other guy to make a mistake. And I fear that that's where MMA might be going, right? So I feel like there are steps we could take to make the fighting a little bit more exciting, to make the sport a bit more exciting, but we're not going to get there. We're nowhere near talking about that in a real way. The UFC would have to kind of lead the charge there. And they're not going to change the rules, and I don't really think that they can.
Bravo,
that's my
Jay.
thought,
Bravo.
AJ. Sorry, AJ.
Bravo.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Actually, I was going to say, how long did you practice that speech, man? That was awesome.
I did.
It was just impromptu. Just out there?
It's just stuff that I think about, man. It's just things that I think about because I'm passionate about the sport, and I think about these things, and I'm watching Usman, and I'm just like, man. And different conversations that I've had. I've had different conversations with different people over the past week, and it's kind of come to a head.
Jesus, man, that was a huge rant. we should get Dana White on our show, and you just go like loco on him with like all that kind of shit, and let's see what he says. David Simon, am I correct? David Simon, what the fuck do you know? What do you know?
What do I know?
That's what he's gonna tell you.
Yeah, sure.
But I'll tell you what you know. You actually brought up some really, really, really good points. There's no doubt about it. And you're right. You have to look at the future of MMA, but let's not forget, we can't judge all the fights because of that one fight. The rest of the card was excellent. We saw amazing submissions. We saw some really good fights, both on the female and male side. There was decisions that were made. There was a controversial calls. And if we look at the UFC starting from January 1st, literally, for the new year, you know what? They pumped out all these cards, and most, I'd say, a good 90% plus have been exciting cards. And it's unfortunate when you get a card like that main card that is going to sort of spoil the soup. The truth is that the UFC has really had some good cards for this year. Through the pandemic, they pumped out some great fights, and they were the only sport in the world that was live. And you know what? We knew that was going to happen with Usman. You know, you called it, I called it. You know, it could have been Conor McGregor, it could have been whoever. It would have been the same result. Usman would have stick to his game, and that's the bottom line to winning when you're a champion. You're gonna go back to what you do best. What I'd like to see is have Usman fight someone who can grapple just as well as him, someone who can wrestle just as well as him, and that's why I get back to Gilbert Burns. And if that was the main card, even if it produced less than 1 million views, pay-per-view sales, it would have still been a 251 like nonstop talk as the best card of the year. And that's what people don't realize. Like sometimes, you know what, it wasn't Masvidal's fight. Masvidal's a stand-up guy. His grappling is good, his wrestling is good, but it's not at the level of a guy like Usman. He couldn't find this space to do what he does best. When you want to see a guy like Masvidal fight, just like to see him fight someone like Conor. That would be a great fight because that's going to be like fireworks. There's going to be strike counts through the roof, and it's going to go the distance. You know, I don't think anybody's going to get knocked out right away, but you're not going to have to worry about, a grappling game that most people won't like, unless you're a part of that world. You know, like
but now
that's what I was trying to say earlier.
But now that Masvidal's lost here to Usman, does the Conor fight really make sense? Like, does Conor want to fight Masvidal now? I don't know. I don't know if that fight makes sense. I feel like Nate Diaz and Masvidal make more sense. Do it again
makes sense
for the BMF title.
Look, you know what? You need to boost Masvidal again. Look, if Masvidal can beat a guy like Conor, he's back on the top, right? He's back on the top as untouchable, and he'll end up fighting Usman again and say, you know what? I only had 6 days to get into this fight. And respect to Usman because he said it best. He goes, you know what? When I was training for this camp, I'm training against Gilbert Burns. When the rest of the guys behind the pack are training, they're training for me. And he's right about that. Even if it was 6 days, you know, Masvidal he's always getting ready to fight the champ. So, look, there might be some, like, excuse for Masvidal. Yes, he's training for Usman in the future, but he probably didn't have the proper camp for Usman. He obviously didn't have the proper training. You know, there's a lot of factors where some fighters are not fighting at their best because they don't have the right team. Look, you even had yesterday's fight. There was a fight that went on, and I think Paul Felder went to fill in as a corner man because all the coaches of that fighter, I forgot who it was, on the prelims were out because of COVID. So you have all these crazy factors that come in where the performance of an athlete is not going to be where it should be in other years, you know?
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And
you're talking a lot. You're saying a lot of nonsense. You're going in circles, AJ. You're talking
about.
What
are you talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? You're saying that George Masvidal didn't win because of coronavirus? What are you saying to me?
I'm saying he didn't train as well as he could have if we didn't have coronavirus. You would have had a proper camp. You would have had the proper
What about
time.
Usman? You know? What about Usman?
Usman had...
He didn't have to deal with coronavirus?
He had to deal with coronavirus.
So it's the same thing then. What are you talking about?
Look.
Come on, man.
Listen.
I know that Masvidal didn't have a full camp. I understand. Okay, we all get that.
6 days, man.
Yeah.
Let's
so
be
what?
honest.
So you want Masvidal to get the shot against Usman again? Like, what do you want here? What are you talking about?
Look, it's simple, man. If you don't have the proper time to get to elite shape. 6 days is not going to do it for you. Even if you're like training every day, it's not the same. You could be doing jiu-jitsu every day, but in 6 days
Yeah.
they tell you that you're going to be fighting Cyborg, and chances are I don't give a shit how good your jiu-jitsu is. If you don't have the right camp, you're not beating.
So, with a full camp, do you think Masvidal would have beat Usman?
Yes.
I don't know. After seeing the fight, I'm not sure.
Listen, because you need to train for a guy that's going to close that distance, and that's what Usman did. He gave him no space. He gave him no time to react in the game plan that Masvidal usually does with anyone else. And that's the thing. You don't have a proper camp, man. It's like going to study an exam, and you study like the night before.
Yeah.
You might pass, but chances are you're going to fail.
Okay. So, my goodness.
Think about it, Dave.
But
it wasn't a terrible fight. At least it went the distance.
I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Usman, probably Gilbert Burns next. Masvidal, Nate Diaz is out there. I don't think Conor's out there. I think Conor right now is probably gonna fight the winner of Khabib and Justin Gaethje. I think those two guys are gonna wind up fighting in September, and then Conor will find the winner early next year. I think that's where we're headed right now. I think Conor is just kind of sitting on the shelf, waiting for the winner now of Gaethje and Khabib. I think that Conor wanted to fight this summer for the UFC. The UFC wasn't really into that idea. They wanted to have him sit and wait for Khabib. And that's why Conor said, I'm retired and I'm not fighting anymore. But I think that's all, negotiations and maybe some hurt feelings and emotions there from Conor when the UFC didn't give him what he wanted for a summer fight. And I think that they will wind up making a deal for Conor to fight sometime in 2021, maybe late 2020, but I doubt it if Khabib's fighting in September. So I would say early 2021, we see Conor versus either Gaethje or Khabib. And I'm not sure about that one, Gaethje or Khabib, who knows. Volkanovsky and Max Holloway. I thought Holloway won. I thought it was a close fight, but people are saying rematch time. I don't really want to see a rematch. Like, we've seen them fight twice. We kind of know what it is. The judges gave it to Volkanovski twice. The first time was close. The second time was even closer. I thought Holloway for sure. I thought Volkanovski, won the first one. It was tight, though. I thought Holloway won the second one. But the judges gave him both. I would give Volkanovski somebody else right now. I would give Volkanovski like Calvin Keator, just like throw him in the mix and see what happens. Calvin Keator looked really good last night against Dan Ige in the main event of the UFC Fight Island show. A lot of people missed that. Not many people know there's a UFC show on a Wednesday night, but they did a fight night card last night. And Calvin Keator is one of the top featherweights in the world, and I think it's time he gets a title shot here against Volkanovski. If not Calvin Keator, there's some other names out there. What's that guy's name? The Russian guy that everybody likes? He's pretty good. Give him a title shot. Isn't he a featherweight? You know who I'm talking about. Come on, AJ, help me.
Trying to figure out who it is.
The Russian guy. He fights at Zabit Magomed Sharipov, right?
Zabit.
Maybe Zabit gets the title shot next against Volkanovski. Calvin Keator's definitely in the mix, though. Yeah,
for sure. But I think Zabit would be a great fight for Volkanovski. There's no doubt about it. That'll be action fight. And you know what? Zabit deserves it.
Yeah,
he's such an impressive fighter. That guy can strike. That guy can kick. Flying knees. Grappling game is through the roof. And you know what? He deserves it. He deserves it. And you know what? Back to Holloway. I think he deserves a rematch as well, because you know what?
Well, hold on. You're saying the same. You're saying two things here, AJ. You're saying two different things that don't line up.
He deserves a I know, but Zabit should get a title fight, and I think Holloway should have a chance if Volkanovski beats Zabit, the Rabbit. Then he should have an opportunity to fight him again, because you called 3-2, I called 3-2, most of the MMA community called 3-2, and most of the MMA fighters called the win for Holloway. So it's an unfortunate loss. I mean, even Volkanovsky in his face, he thought he lost. Let's be honest. But, you know, would you call the third fight right away? You
No,
know, maybe
not right
for
away.
pay-per-view sales is probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Have
why
him fight
Zabit
other
should come
people.
in.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Zabit is going to be fighting August 29th against Yair Rodriguez.
That'll be a great fight.
Yair
That'll
is
be a good one.
number 5 ranked. Zabit is number 2 ranked here. I'm looking at the UFC's official rankings. So they have them both ranked top 5. The winner of that fight, you would think, would be the next number 1 contender against Volkanovski. And I would put Holloway against Calvin Keator. Calvin Keator looked really good. Holloway lost the fight, but, you know, he's one of the top fighters in the division. I would throw that fight in there. And I know that Chan Sung Jung and Brian Ortega want to fight each other. I think that one's going to go down at some point. So those are the top featherweights in the world. I think Zabit and Yair, the winner of that one, you know, if Yair can beat Zabit, give him a title shot. And if Zabit can beat Yair, so much hype around Zabit for so long now, I think it's time. You know, he's ranked number 2 in the world. If he can win his next fight against a number 5 ranked guy, give him Volkanovski, I say. And I would, wait for Holloway. If Holloway can get past a guy like Calvin Keator and Volkanovski can get past a guy like Zabit, then sure, do the rematch. But maybe they don't. Maybe Zabit wins and you do Zabit Holloway or Zabit Keator for the title in, a year or so. So I would not do Holloway and Volkanovski right off the bat. Petr Yan, who is the 135-pound champion, he had a little altercation backstage. I saw a video with him and Cody Garbrandt. They don't like each other.
What?
That fight is out there. Garbrandt's ranked 3 in the world at 135. Marlon Moraes is technically ranked number 1 right now by the UFC, and Aljamain Sterling number 2. I really thought Aljamain Sterling was going to be getting this title shot against Petr Yan when they announced that they were going to be moving on with the bantamweight title after Henry Cejudo, the ex-champion, retired. I thought it would be Aljamain and Yan, and then they throw Jose Aldo in there, and it's like, huh? Marlon Moraes just beat Jose Aldo by split decision, but then Aldo got the title shot.
Yeah,
Marlon Moraes lost to Henry
close.
Cejudo. He fought Cejudo, got TKO'd in the 3rd round when they fought for the title. Dana White is talking about Marlon Moraes in there against Petr Yan next. But I would much rather see Aljamain Sterling or even Cody Garbrandt. But I would lean with Aljamain Sterling right now. I think he's next.
That would be a much more exciting fight, and it'll bring a lot more viewers to the pay-per-view or just a fight night, whatever they want to do. People will come and see that. I mean, Moraes against Aldo, I still remember that fight. That was close. I thought Aldo won it. He looked good.
Yeah. I thought Aldo won it too. And now for some reason Moraes gets the title shot. It's like, why? Why does he get a title shot?
I don't understand who's making the cards at the UFC brass. But I'm going to tell you something. You brought out some good names like Ortega and all this. Why aren't we seeing more of these guys fighting? Ortega, we should see him fight.
I think he was hurt.
More than, well, okay, let's say he's hurt.
It happens.
There are times when, it happens. But there's so many other fighters out there, man. So many fighters. You name them. I still like to see Johnny Walker fight. But we're not seeing these guys on these cards.
I will say this
What?
for Marlon Moraes getting the title shot. He did beat Aldo, but we thought he lost. He did lose to Henry Cejudo, but before that he was on a solid win streak, including a win over Aljamain Sterling. He did beat him by knockout in 2017 with a knee, knocked him out in the 1st round. So maybe that's why the UFC feels Marlon over Aljamain, but that was 2017. And since then, Aljamain Sterling has picked up 5 wins in a row. I don't know. I feel like Aljamain is surging right now. I would put him in there for the title shot, but the UFC seems like they want to put Marlon Moraes in there against Petr Yan next. I feel like Aljamain would sell way more than Marlon Moraes would. I don't get that. I don't get that move.
That Petr Yan was the 4th and 5th round. You start to see this guy open up. Was that crazy or what? Was that crazy? Like there was, I think in the 5th round, he had over 113 strikes. And Aldo only had 1. And that's Jose Aldo, man, one of the most feared fighters at one point in the UFC. One strike.
Yeah.
113. That's not a joke. That shows you the power of Peter Yan, like the most underrated champion at the moment, with like the most skills in the game above any other fighter out there. Like I said, over and over again, the only thing he's missing is a little bit of that charisma. Somebody has to go in there like an Anthony Robbins and work with him, you know?
Peter Yan,
And get him
man.
up there.
He's not a big guy, 135 pounds, but he packs a lot of punch, a lot of power in that small package. Just like our friends over at Manscaped, when you get the new Lawnmower 3.0, just a fantastic product. The Lawnmower 3.0 is a nice little razor. It's got a beautiful little light at the end of it so you can see in those nooks and crannies. Go check out our sponsor, Manscaped, manscaped.com. Use that promo code Ringside20 for 20% off, plus free shipping on all your Manscaped orders. Manscaped.com, promo code Ringside20. They've got so many great products. Look at this right here. Ball deodorant. You need to deodorize your balls. You have smelly balls? Use the ball deodorant. What are you thinking walking around with smelly balls? There's Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com. Use that promo code Ringside20. Buy the brand new Lawnmower 3.0. We all got it. It is fantastic. We're all using it. We're manscaping. You can shave in the shower if you want to because it's all waterproof and fantastic, cord-free, runs on a little battery deal, just fantastic. And it's now available in Canada, the Lawnmower 3.0. Go check it out. Manscaped.com and use that promo code Ringside20. Tell Manscaped that we sent you. Use that promo code Ringside20 and get 20% off, plus free shipping on your whole Manscaped order. What a deal. What a deal. Manscaped.com.
We've got the best smelling nutsack around. Like Ringside Report, I'm sure we have better nutsack smell than I don't know, Ariel Hawani or whoever. You name it, any other show. We've got the best smelling nuts. Why? Because the Manscaped 3.0. Ask Johnny North if you don't believe me.
That's right. Best smelling nuts on YouTube right now, all right? The number
Canadian
one
nuts.
balls on YouTube.
Maple nuts.
Number one balls in Canada. Okay, let's get back to the MMA here. UFC Ige versus Keator last night. I was really impressed with that main event. Calvin Keator and Dan Ige had a really good fight. Tim Elliott, Ryan Benoit, another really good one. The rest of the card, I didn't catch all the fights. But I thought we saw some good fights on this card. I really liked the main and co-main event there. It was a solid card, not a big, not a big money card, nothing, major on the line. But Calvin Keator getting the win puts himself in a really good spot for, if not a title shot, maybe one fight away from a title shot.
Look, these are the fight cards that surprise everybody. A lot of people were surprised that there was an actual UFC event happening on a Wednesday. That's the thing with UFC. They have to pump out so many fights from now till the end of the year. And, it's unfortunate because, even myself, I see every card you can imagine. And yesterday, I missed out on a lot of those fights because of the Wednesday night card wasn't like the best night for me to be watching the UFC. But regardless, it was spectacular. And there was some fights on there. I was AJ was busy, I had some things and, I could only go in and out kind of stuff.
Everybody knows what I was doing. You know what I was doing?
Yeah, I know. I got the pop-up. You were doing some show again for Ringside Report. Because we have, how many shows do we have a week, Dave, live?
Tons. I don't know. I don't even know anymore. There's the show that I did last night for AEW Dynamite. I was watching AEW Dynamite. That's why I wasn't watching UFC. I was watching the Dynamite show, some AEW wrestling, and then we did the AEW Dynamite Fight for the Fallen recap show, myself, my brother, and my son, the whole Simon family in the building. Yeah, Zevi gave his match of the night, talked a little bit about the wrestling show that he watched, 3 years old, but he loves wrestling, He was wearing his NWO shirt, looking really cool. So you could check that out on our YouTube channel. Go check that out right now. And, of course, this show, Ringside Report MMA, every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Dave and Johnny live tomorrow We'll talk a little New Japan and some other things going on in the wrestling world. Dave and Johnny live every Friday at 12:45 p.m. Eastern. And then dropping this Saturday morning at 11 a.m., it will be Wrestling Uncensored, episode number. Do you know where we're at? This is going to be a special episode of Wrestling Uncensored. Actually, not that special because usually we do a party for this, but because
we did the 400 episode,
because
remember?
of COVID times, we can't really do a party, right? So,
I mean, we could technically.
You know what number this is, AJ? You know what it is?
Well, the last big party was awesome. We had people. We had Wally from Ireland. We had like all kinds of people from, you name it, Toronto, Quebec City. It was a wild party. If you missed that episode, just go back in time and look at it. It was number 400. What is it now?
500.
It seems like yesterday, Dave. You're kidding me already?
It's been 100 shows since then. Yeah.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We got to do something, man. We got to do like a party, man. We got to do something, Dave. I'm going nuts here, man. I got to get out. You promised me I was going to get on studio soon. I'm going to talk to your girlfriend, man. I have to do something. We have to get there.
I don't know. Maybe you can do something for me. Maybe you could do something for me. I'm the one putting out 500 episodes of Wrestling Uncensored. Why do I have to put in effort and do more stuff? People should be doing something for me. How about that?
Well, you're the guy who you're the boss.
I know. I got to do something. I'll come up with something.
Me and Johnny are just on the side. Freddie's with the baby now. Right. You know, don't forget the production team as well. You got to give them like some Robert De Niro's, who's not at this moment doesn't have much De Niro's himself, but you know. Hey, listen, you didn't
producing all the content, but yeah, no, it's okay. Figueiredo versus Benavidez coming up on Saturday night. This is a good card, man. This is a little bit more high profile than the one on Wednesday.
Wait a sec. You didn't mention a very important fight.
What?
The most important fight of that night, which was one of the most exciting fights, which I did see, was Mounir Laziz. Mounir, the first Tunisian fighter in the UFC who came out as a serious underdog and won against Abdul. That was an exciting fight. And the best part about it is that Mounir used to train in Montreal with our coach, Fabi Hollanda, at BTT. And this guy was awesome. Such a nice guy. I wrestled with him. I grappled with him. I did Muay Thai with Mounir. And he was awesome back then. And now he won so many fans yesterday. He's basically what they call him is like the Conor McGregor of the Middle East. This guy has attitude. He's got skills, and he proved it yesterday. So I'm surprised, man. We got to mention he won like fight of the night bonus too, if I'm not mistaken.
So this is one of your new guys that you're excited about, Mounir.
Mounir is good,
you
man.
Met him?
Well, I didn't meet him. I was training with him.
You trained with him. You.
Yeah, of course.
You.
Hey, man. AJ's been around, man. But that's the thing. And let me tell you the story. Let me tell you the story how this guy got into the UFC. Wait, let me tell you. So Dana White's son, okay, has this friend. His friend said to Dana, listen, let me give you like this guy I think is going to be really exciting in the UFC. His name is Mounir. He's awesome. Take a look at his highlight videos. So Dana White got a chance to see Mounir's highlight videos, and he was so impressed. He says, you know what, I'm going to give this guy a shot. And that's how he got into the UFC. And Mounir was like, I think he's 10-1 in MMA. He's no joke. He's a real deal. And coming into his first UFC fight, most people are saying, out on social media and whatnot, they're saying, you know what, hire this kid to be the next scout for the UFC because he called it right, man. He says, get Mounir in. And look what he did, man. He's an awesome fighter.
Well,
listen, man, did you like that story?
Good for Mounir. I love the story, AJ. Great story.
The laser, man.
Seeing Acme Tunes on the chat, he says he regrets not going to Wrestling Uncensored 400th party. Yeah, man, it was a big Wrestling Uncensored party, and I don't know when we're going to be able to have another one. I mean, Wally flew in from Ireland for it. It was a big deal, episode 400, and I felt like 500. I felt at the time that 500 would be even bigger, but because of these COVID times, I'm seeing TK on the chat saying that we need to do a 500 episode party. Like,
yeah,
what are we supposed to? Yeah, okay. What are we supposed to do?
Let me.
I'm not getting coronavirus to celebrate a fucking party, man. To celebrate, 100 more episodes of my wrestling show, man. I'm not trying to be near humans. I love the Wrestling Uncensored universe, but one of you people might have coronavirus, and I'm not willing to take that chance. right?
Chances are, well, listen,
I'm not
if
getting
anybody
together.
was walking around with like no care in the world, in a sense, Freddie was the man. But Freddie right now he's got no choice to be quarantined. He has no choice.
Yeah, well, his girlfriend was tested for coronavirus. She doesn't have it, so Fred is probably one of the safest people to be around. He probably doesn't have it.
Hey, listen,
But
I know someone that I do jiu-jitsu with that got it, and he was very young,
yeah,
20 years old. So we're gonna do a party, but we're probably gonna do it more in the fall. How's that sound, Dave? We'll do the 500 plus
no,
party. Oh, come
no,
on, man.
no.
See
Fall.
what I have to deal with, Acme?
Tell
The
you what,
fall
we'll do
party,
it
man.
next fall, 2021.
What?
We'll do it. We'll do it big for
Jesus.
600 because the fall. AJ, you realize we're in like mid-July. I'm not having any parties mid-July. I'm not having any parties in August. The fall is like right after that. I'm not having any parties in September or October. It's not happening. It's not happening. I'm not going near anybody. Even when everybody else is having parties, they'll still be like, I'm going to stay away for another year, see how you people do. Did you see what happened when they opened bars in the city? Now they're telling everybody that went to a bar, it's probably a good idea for you guys to all get tested for coronavirus now. They open bars, and then the mayor of the city is like a couple weeks, maybe a week or two after they reopen the bars, they're like, yeah, probably a good idea for everyone that went to a bar to get tested now. Like, what? Oh,
it's
wow.
so messed up.
And people
It's
want
so
me to
messed
have a
up,
party
man.
for episode 500. No, thank you. I'm not doing that. I don't want to be
I wanna do it.
responsible. Like, what if AJ has coronavirus? He comes to the party and he gives, all sorts of people that love wrestling uncensored coronavirus. Then I'm responsible for AJ's irresponsible ass giving coronavirus to everybody. So there will be no party for episode 500. We're going to preview WWE Extreme Rules, and then we will party, virtually for WWE Extreme Rules on Sunday night. We'll do a live watch along. So last night began several straight days for me of doing multiple shows. I did the show last night, AEW Fight for the Fallen recap. This morning, we dropped a new episode of Irreparable Damage, which you can catch at irreparabledamageshow.com. We're doing Ringside Report MMA right now. Dave and Johnny Live will come out tomorrow. Wrestling Uncensored will come out on Saturday. And then, of course, Sunday night will be the WWE Extreme Rules Horror Show watch-along. Myself, Johnny North, and my brother, Ben Simon, will all be on the show Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the YouTube channel. So, it's going to be a jam-packed weekend here for me, getting hyped up for a lot of pro wrestling.
I'll tune in. What the hell was that?
I don't know, AJ.
I was going to say, listen. Okay, my Woody fell. But I'm going to tell you something. Oh, yeah. What I was going to say is, don't forget to give a shout-out to our friend Wally in Ireland that you mentioned, because he got a big award with Vodafone, man, and he has his show. Why don't you give a plug for his show, Dave? Don't hog all the credit.
Why don't you give a... What do you mean? What? Why don't you give a plug for his show?
Yeah, so first of all, congratulations to
Wally.
I'll do it.
I'll do it because it'll take way too long if you do it. Wally, our good buddy, he's got a business podcast and he won a business award. So congratulations to our buddy Wally. He's got a podcast, Money to Burn Money, and then to the number, and then Burn, B-Y-R-N-E, like his last name. So you could check that out. Anything else you want me to plug here, AJ? While I'm at it, why don't I tell you about our friends over at Stitcher Premium? Go check out our friends at Stitcher Premium right now. They're giving you a chance to get a special offer as part of their sponsorship of our work on Stitcher Premium. Besides all of our shows, you can listen to over 100,000 podcasts on all of your devices.
Wow.
There are Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, comedy albums, and more. It's just $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year. But if you go to Stitcher.com/premium right now and sign up today using the promo code RINGSIDE, you get a free month of Stitcher Premium. Go to Stitcher.com/premium, promo code RINGSIDE for a free month of Stitcher Premium and help support the Ringside Report Network, working very hard for you. Where I am, AJ's just kind of over there.
No, I just remembered what you could have. I just remember what you could have plugged was Joanna's pictures on the beach with her bikini. Did you see those things? Jesus.
Take
What's
it
up with
easy.
that?
What are you talking about here? What are you talking about?
Well, I
What
thought you
is
were going to
it?
get
Where
into
is this show going? Where is this show degenerating into?
Listen, if you're going to watch that stuff, I thought you were going to say, yeah, it's because you need IP vanished. But you didn't. Like,
AJ needs to protect himself on the internet. He needs to sign up for IP Vanish. Go to
because when
VPN.
you're reading,
Oh, AJ, take it easy over there. Put that down.
no,
I don't want to see what you're.
energy,
I don't want to see what you're doing. If you're on the internet, if you are in any way, with your laptop, with your phone, with your iPad, your what do you call them? Pads?
beeper,
What do you call those things?
iPads.
Yeah, but they have a name, when it's not just an iPad. Come on, man, help me out. Tablet.
Beepers, I don't know.
Tablet, goddammit, tablet.
Jesus.
Oh, thanks, AJ. Always there, beepers. Still stuck in 1982. AJ's stuck in an era that I didn't even know because I was born after it. It's kind of weird. It's funny, AJ. Like, all your references are from TV shows that ended before I was ever born. It's really weird. So, IP Vanish. Yeah, exactly. Dukes, I don't know. I don't know. VPN.ringsidereport.net. Protect yourself on the internet. Use IP Vanish. Okay? Do it. IP Vanish. VPN.ringsidereport.net. They will keep you safe on the internet. And also, are you sick of seeing videos that you can't access because it's not available in your country? Well, IP Vanish will fix that for you. You need a secure VPN like IP Vanish. Go to vpn.ringsidereport.net. Support yourself and support the Ringside Report Network at the very same time. How about it? All right, let's get to the preview here. Figueiredo versus Benavidez. Taking place this Saturday night. Figueiredo beat him the last time, but he didn't make weight. Oh, well.
Look, a lot of guys didn't make weight in the last little while. It's not as easy, man. You don't have like the complete team or the full team to like help you through, like, especially weight cut. Weight cut is like one of the most horrible things that a fighter could go through. And if they're not really good at weight cutting, some fighters are able to do it with no problem, especially if you come from a wrestling background. But it's tough, man. It's tough.
It is tough. But, it's part of the sport, and it's something that you are expected to do. Davison Figueiredo missed weight the last time that he fought Benavidez. It was supposed to be for the flyweight title. He was supposed to make 125. He made 127.5. So the fight wasn't for the championship for Figueiredo, only for Benavidez. But Benavidez lost by TKO in the second round. And this was not that long ago. This was February 29th of this year. They're going to run it back. Benavidez has another shot. But I don't think those 2.5 pounds gave Figueiredo the win. I think you still got to go with Davison Figueiredo going into this fight. Odds makers like him -210. Benavidez +175. We'll see if Figueiredo makes weight. I'm kind of surprised that Figueiredo isn't a heavier favorite. Like, he dominated Benavidez last time they fought. I figure he'll do it again here on Saturday, right?
We'll see, man. It's really hard to be able to bet on fighters that you think will win.
What?
Is
it? It seems like the easier thing to do.
No, man. Everything is like it's so hard. It's so hard, man. Like, other than my picks on Saturday that came out, like my other pick. I mean, you just don't know, man. Like, you just don't know. Look at the Holloway fight.
So you don't have a pick? You're not even going to pick a winner? Figueiredo or Benavidez?
I'm going to go with Benavidez.
All right. That's going to be wrong again, AJ, and I will gloat about it next time I see you, okay? Next time we're on the show, I'll tell you about how wrong you were, and how you should have went with me picking Figueiredo, just like you do. Even though I probably won't, because I don't do that type of thing. That's an AJ move, right? And Fred wanted to mention, by the way, his AJ move, that he was the only one who picked Masvidal because we both picked, or no, he was the only one who picked Usman because we both picked Masvidal to win, right?
No. I picked Usman. I was the guy calling you.
Oh, bullshit, AJ. You picked Usman. You picked Usman on Thursday, but then on Saturday when we're watching the fights and doing the watch-along, you're like, I'm changing my pick to Masvidal. So now,
I didn't
no
say
matter
change my
what, you're
pick.
right.
I said
You did say I
No,
changed
no,
my
no.
pick. Yes, you did.
I didn't
You
say-
said it. It's
I
on
didn't say change my
YouTube,
pick.
dude. Oh my god.
Listen, it's
Are
on
you
YouTube as
kidding?
well.
Seriously?
Thursday the Thursday show. I said
Thursday.
Usman
Yep.
was gonna win. Great grappling. It was gonna be a boring fight. AJ was right. But I said on Saturday when you showed me the picture of his house and everything, I said, you know what? Masvidal has a reason to win. He needs to win this fight because he needs to keep that lifestyle up. After buying that house, I said he has a reason to win. But I didn't say he was going to win.
You changed your pick. You changed your pick on Saturday when we did the watch along. You don't even listen to yourself when you speak. It's amazing.
Listen.
Okay,
No,
Kelvin
don't change my words
Gastelum.
there.
Kelvin
Don't change
Gastelum
my
is coming
words.
off. Yeah. Your words are on YouTube. You can go back and watch them. I'm not, go back and watch our UFC 251 watch along and tell me if AJ didn't change his pick picking Jorge Masvidal before that
No,
fight.
but you gotta
So now
listen
he
to
could
the
come on
Thursday
the
fight.
show. Now he could come on the
Thursday
show.
episode.
Yeah, but so if you say something Thursday but then change your mind Saturday, I'm supposed to not listen to what you said Saturday and only listen to when you were correct on Thursday?
Hey, man, I didn't say he was going to win. I said he has
You did.
a
Yes,
reason
you did.
to
Bullshit.
win.
You're a fucking liar. You're a fucking liar. You're terrible. Israel
Listen,
Adesanya
man.
and Darren Till have beat Calvin Gastelum in his last two fights. Calvin coming off 2 straight losses to some pretty good fighters. His opponent, Jack Hermanson, is coming off a TKO loss to Jared Cannonier back in September of last year. Before that, he was on a solid win streak. Hermanson, 20 wins, 5 losses as a pro, 32 years of age. Kelvin Gastelum is only 28. He's 15-5 as a pro. Crazy that he's only 28. Feels like he's been fighting for a long time. Been in the UFC since 2013. Team Jones, he was on the Team John Jones versus Team Chael Sonnen Ultimate Fighter. That's how long ago, he was around, and he won that season, of course, beating Uriah Hall in the finals. I'll never forget that one. That was maybe the last season of the Ultimate Fighter that was actually good there because Chael made it interesting. Not like the fight. Chael didn't make it interesting in the fight. John Jones smashed him to pieces. So Kelvin versus Hermanson co-main event here on Saturday night. Odds makers have it as a pick'em. AJ, you just said it's so hard to pick fights, yet you are gloating at the same time about your ability to pick fights, even though you pick both fighters as the winner, and then come back and say that you were right. So
who are you going with?
Give me a pick, AJ. The odds makers don't know. It's a pick'em fight, -110 on either side. You help everybody since you are such a genius, and only give me one fighter's name. Don't give me both fighters.
Why.
Give me a reason why, but don't tell me, well, Kelvin's going to win, but also Jack Hermanson's going to win. Tell me who is going to win and why.
Dave,
you can tell me
Dave,
why.
I don't work like that. I'm going to tell you why. Because Jack has a 6-inch reach advantage. That's the difference. He has strong grappling, just like Gastelum. But the problem is he's only 5'9", and it's that 6-inch reach that's going to make the difference. You know what? I'm going to give this to Jack. This is Jack's night. It's going to be the Jack in the box night. And I'm not changing it. I don't change. When I said Usman was going to win, I didn't change it. You can listen to the show Thursday and the live, the watch along on Saturday. You'll realize I didn't change it. AJ was right. Okay,
I
Dave.
think Kelvin Gastelum is one of the toughest guys in the UFC. That fight with Israel Adesanya was legendary for the title. He's got a great chin. He's got great hands. He's a really good wrestler. I think he's going to find a way to win over 3 rounds and beat Jack Hermanson. I think it's going to be a decision victory for Kelvin Gastelum. So AJ and I splitting on the picks for the big fights here on Saturday. I've got Gastelum. He's got Hermanson. I've got Figueiredo. He's got Benavidez. I will be 2-0. AJ will be 0-2, and we'll talk about it next Thursday night. Any other fights on this card that you're interested in or you are even aware of? No. That's a no. That's a big old no.
You know what?
Alexander Pantoja, apparently, who's fighting on this card against Askar Askarov. I love it when their first name and their last name is basically the same thing. Askarov. Fantastic. Alexander Pantoja, who's from Brazil, 30 years old. He's 22-4. And there's talk that if Figueiredo can't make weight, or if something happens with Benavidez, that this guy Pantoja would step in and fight for the title instead. So look out tomorrow morning to see who makes weight. But I think, hopefully it's going to happen and Figueiredo will show up. But I heard that Pantoja was the guy who might step in here if Figueiredo can't make weight. Other than that, is that Irish Joe Duffy? Oh, yeah, Joe Duffy's fighting on this card. He beat Conor McGregor way, way back. I think he's the first guy to ever beat Conor. Right?
On the prelims, yeah.
Second guy to beat Conor. But he beat Conor. He submitted Conor way back when they were both fighting in Ireland. So Joe Duffy's fighting. I know Joe Duffy was living and training here in Montreal. He was at TriStar for a while. He's a good fighter. He's been around. Joe Duffy against Joel Alvarez on the prelims of this one. That's decent. I'll watch that. Davey Ramos. Davey Ramos is a good fighter. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, isn't he? He's like really good.
Yeah.
Really good jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, he's on the Fight Pass. Yeah, that'll be good.
That'll be a good one.
I mean, look, you have Mark Diakis on the main card.
Yeah, but who's he fighting?
That should be interesting.
Mark Diakis is good, but I don't know. Rafael Fiziev. There's a lot of these people I don't know, but, a couple names here or there. It's not the worst card, but it's certainly not the best. But the two main events are solid. You got a flyweight title fight in the main event. It's a free card. It's not on pay-per-view, and they give you a world title fight. So that's never bad. And Hermanson and Gastelum, two good middleweights. I think that fight will be good. Diak's, he's got really good striking. He's fun to watch. He's got flashy style. He's good, man. So there'll be some good fights on this card. Should be all right. Coming up Saturday night, UFC Fight Island 2. Because UFC 251 was the first card on Fight Island, but that was called UFC 251 Fight Island. Then the fight night last night, usually it's like, UFC Vegas or UFC Montreal or UFC Toronto, whatever, when it's a fight night, UFC, name of the city. But because they're just at Fight Island, last night was UFC Fight Island 1. Saturday night, it's UFC Fight Island 2. And then I think next Saturday night when Darren Till fights Robert Whittaker, which, that's a good fight, right? That's happening on Fight Island 2, and that's going to be UFC Fight Island 3. And then they're going back to Las Vegas August 1st for Irene Aldana against Holly Holm on a fight night. And then their event after that is UFC 252 Cormier versus Miocic in mid-August, but they don't have a location for that. I think it's going to be in Vegas. I don't think it's going to be on Fight Island, but the UFC hasn't said. They haven't said where the DC Stipe fight is actually going to be. Can they do it in Japan? Because New Japan Pro Wrestling has a third of the audience in there, and it feels like a real wrestling show. Kind of nice. Any way they can go to Japan?
Why don't they do it in Louisiana? That would be awesome.
Because, we're trying to avoid a pandemic right now. And Louisiana...
But regardless...
Well, they're not going to do it in front of fans. They're not going to do it in front of fans in the United States. I'm trying to find a way that you could do a heavyweight title fight in front of people. Paid, ticket-buying, attendance.
Well, one thing we noticed on Saturday, there was a lot more people in the I guess, audience.
Yeah.
More than 50 people. I guess they upped the number of people allowed in the UFC event. But let's be honest, is it really a Fight Island? I mean, it was so much hype on this Fight Island, and people are still talking about it. They're like, I was expecting like the octagon in the middle of this island and all this kind of stuff, but it's not really it's not really like the island that we would expect.
It's an arena. It doesn't look like an island. They're on an island technically in Abu Dhabi, but the only reason they're there is because Abu Dhabi is one of the few places where they could get some of these international fighters from all sorts of different countries and get them into that country to fight, right? Because there's a lot of travel restrictions from the U.S. to and from the U.S., right? A lot of people don't want you going to the U.S. A lot of borders are closed. So Fight Island in Abu Dhabi is kind of a way to do this outlaw show where you can have all sorts of people coming in because the restrictions are pretty loose in Abu Dhabi and they play ball with the UFC. But, if you're just going to have all American fighters on this card, you might as well be doing it in Vegas. It's just a gimmick. They did it. They called it Fight Island. They tried to make it this fun, exotic thing. But really what it was a workaround so that you could get some of these fighters from Brazil and Russia and wherever to come in and actually fight for the UFC because they can't come to the States. That's all that is. And DC and Stipe both live in the States, so I think that thing's going to be done at the UFC Apex. Mid-August, they're still going to be in Vegas. There's still going to be no people. They're going to do it at the UFC Apex in Vegas. No fans. It's going to happen. Bet on that, AJ.
For me. But I'm going to tell you something. Look, without the fans there's one thing that people keep saying over and over. At least you get to hear the cornermen, or you can hear the fighters talking, or you can actually hear the hits and punches. Like there's so much more that you miss when there's such a huge crowd. You don't get to hear all these things that are going on that are so close, and intimate. Like you hear the coaches like throwing out things and like there's talk back between the fighters, and sometimes they're verbally jabbing each other and talking shit.
It's fun.
And you don't hear that. It's fun, So, look, when we go back to live crowd, we're going to miss that kind of stuff in some sense. But you know what? It gave an opportunity for people to see what really happens that close to the octagon.
Yeah, and when you're watching the fights, you could really hear the smack of the punches. I like hearing that. I like hearing the violence. It's cool. I like it, but there's nothing like a crowd, man. It's not quite the same, and hopefully we can go back to live crowds as soon as possible, but it's not looking like it's going to happen, at least not in the United States, until 2021.
In England, they have soccer matches, and they have like these fake crowd sounds in the stadium to, I guess, motivate the players or whatnot. I mean, it's really crazy. Like, in some sense, it almost feels watching it that there's an actual crowd there, but there's no one in the stands, and they put out these like fake banners that look like there's a crowd in there and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe the UFC needs to do that, like just to bring in past sounds of fight action and just hype it up a bit. I don't know
if you need that. I don't think that's necessary. I like the sound of the fights. I like to hear the corners. I like to hear the fighters. I like to hear the coaches. I think the sound of the crowd is unnecessary. We don't need fake crowd noise. I think that's a little ridiculous. I think the UFC benefits because when you watch a UFC event, a UFC sporting event compared to all other sports, it's focused tight on the octagon. You're focused on that cage, and the crowd is really dark. You don't really see the crowd. Sure, you're going to see some people, but the focus, the whole thing, the action is in a tight space that you're watching, and when you're watching the fight, you're not really seeing the crowd. When you're watching a baseball game, you're watching a soccer game, and a basketball game, any kind of game, a hockey game, you are seeing the crowd the entire time. So not only is the audio experience different, like the UFC audio experience is different, but the visual is nearly the same. But with all other sports, when you're watching it, it feels even more off because not only is the audio experience off, but the visuals empty. It's weird, and the UFC benefits because they have that tight shot on the octagon. They don't do a big wide shot because it's not a team sport, right? So it does work. AJ, let's wrap this thing up. I want to wrap this up with words from our buddy Fred Garcia, who's not with us tonight, who'll be back with us soon. He says, I wanted credit for saying Masvidal was a star first. And yes, he had Usman winning. So he wanted credit for saying how Masvidal was a star and he was a pay-per-view draw, and that he had Usman winning the fight, and then we both had Masvidal, even though you had Usman, and then you changed your pick to Masvidal. No, but now you're changing your pick again to Usman. You change your pick after the fight happens. And if you can't do that because you're so adamant that the other guy's going to win and then he loses, you're like, well, he would have won if this, he would have won if that, he got screwed, the other guy cheated, the refs, the judges, whatever you can find to make an excuse. so that AJ remains always right, which you seldom are. And that's the show. RingsideReport.net is where you can find us. All our stuff is available at RingsideReport.net. I'll be back with Johnny North tomorrow for Dave and Johnny Live at 12:45 on a Friday. Follow AJ at Dan E. Brook on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Freddie at Freddie MMA. Follow me at Dave Simon MMA on all the things. Until then, RingsideReport.net. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Oh, yeah, and click the bell. Ding. So you get notifications every time we're on. For AJ and Freddie, I'm Dave, and this has been, stay with me now, Ringside Report